I think I got to stop and talk about this. I'm looking this up to see if it's true. I got beeps on my phone. I got all this stuff on my phone. And you guys may be right. So I want to make sure that we are correct before we just go spouting it off. I mean, it's everywhere that Nick Saban is retiring. It's everywhere that Nick Saban is retiring. So ESPN put it out. Like I said, I got the notifications everywhere, but you know how sometimes those can be. I'm like, hold on, let me check. I've looked at 3 different sources. It's everywhere. It looks like Nick Saban is retiring from Alabama. Nick Saban is retiring. Now, people talk about it. I think Nick Saban's 72 years old. I mean, he's not some young spring chicken. But that's the truth. I mean, like I said, it's everywhere. So if that's the truth, man, that is big for college football. Man, that's big for college football. Whew. Here's the one thing, man. Here's the one thing. Who is going to take the job? That's what I would want to know. Who is going to take the job? Is it Dabo Swinney? Is he going to leave Clemson to come? Tommy Rees, stop it, Julius. Stop it. Man, that's crazy. It's big news, but it's not all that unexpected, man. It's not all that unexpected. And you may be right. My man Darren Howard said he wanted no part of the expanded playoffs. Once he lost the stranglehold on paying players, he was out. I mean, I think that's a 1,000% fact. Everybody knew that Alabama was paying guys. NIL took its effect on Alabama, where guys were getting paid all these other places and made it legal. So they didn't have a stranglehold on that. The transfer portal. And he's like, you know what? I'm out. I'm out. As much as we love Nick Saban, and he is the greatest college football coach ever. Let's not do that. But things change. And when you're a little older and you don't necessarily want to change with them, this is what happens. And again, he's 72. It's not like he's 52. He's 72. It's okay to go out. It's okay to go out. And you're right. There are too many teams to go through. Doesn't want to do that anymore. Football has changed. You know, they said the same thing about Roy Williams when he retired from North Carolina. He's like, basketball changed. He didn't want to do it. They said it about Coach K. NCAA basketball changed. He didn't want to do it. This might be the case of the same thing. Outstanding career, greatest college football coach ever. Does anybody think that he's not? Does anybody think that he's not? So I think he is. So I just, it's crazy that he retired. But, and that transfer portal, yeah, Steve Ritchie over on YouTube, that transfer portal from Alabama. Now, I think the transfer portal's closed. I don't know that you can get into it anymore. But after spring ball, whoo, man, is that going to be nuts. He's not going to the NFL, man. He's not going to the NFL. And some people are talking about Joe Paterno's the greatest coach. No, he's not. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Regardless of what you think and what he did, the one thing, and I'll stand on it, and I don't care what anybody says, Joe Paterno allowed for a pedophile to run around on his campus and didn't do everything humanly possible to get him off. I don't care how many football games he won. That happened. That happened. I mean, and you can say time is forgiven. They had a statue of Joe Paterno out in front of the stadium. They took it down. They didn't put it back up. They know what happened. Y'all got to stop. Look, Joe Paterno was a great football coach, And I've said this from day one, and I'll say it again. If that had been his grandson, where an assistant coach told him that he thought was being molested in the locker room, Joe Paterno would have called the Pennsylvania governor and had the National Guard come down there and shoot that guy. He would have had him come down and kill him in the locker room. That's what would have happened. Instead, he did nothing. I have no sympathy for what happened for him. It is what it is. But that's not the story today. That's not the story today. Eddie Robinson, I mean, we love Eddie Robinson, but Eddie Robinson, I don't know. I mean, he's up there. I think Eddie Robinson might be in the top 5, but I don't think he's the greatest. And the only reason is because he just didn't do it at the highest level. But yeah, you can't knock Eddie Robinson. You can't put him out of your top 5 for sure. Too many pros, just too much influence. Got to be in the top 5. So Urban Meyer is not the only one close to Nick Saban. Stop that. Stop that. But Nick Saban retiring from Alabama, man, that is nuts. That is nuts. We were going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and all his drama with Jimmy Kimmel. But I'll be honest with you. This is a bigger deal than that. Let's go to Q&A. Screw Aaron Rodgers. He's an idiot. He's a drama queen. I don't want to talk about him. Let's talk about this. So, I just don't know who's going to take the job. So, and yeah, you're right, Austin. He's going out relatively on top. No struggling the last few years like older coaches and older players. You're right. Like, there wasn't a big downturn at Alabama where, they were winning 7-8 games a year. That's not what happened. They were in the playoff this year. Just won the SEC title. It's a great point. So I don't know. I don't know who takes that job, man. Bill O'Brien's not getting the Alabama job. They would be nuts to give him that job. So I think you're right, Overstreet. I think Alabama players, you're going to see a flood of Alabama players go to the portal. You're going to see a lot. Now, a lot are going to stay. It depends on who they hire. And I think they got to hire somebody quick. They got to hire somebody fast. But here's the thing. It's Nick Saban. It's Alabama. He didn't make this decision yesterday. That's the whole thing. He didn't make this decision yesterday to retire. They've been working behind the scenes for a little while, and he probably let them know, hey, man, I'm retiring. You need to step up, figure this out. Let's figure it out together. Maybe Nick Saban has a hand in who his replacement is, which I got to believe that that's the case. So, Jimmy Johnson, Jimbo Fisher. If Jimbo Fisher ever coaches another game in college football, first of all, that university is insane. Second of all, he's an idiot. He just got $78 million not to coach. Why go through the headache? $78 million to be retired? I mean, that's the greatest golden parachute that there is for a college football coach. So, it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting. Can anyone call anyone and get a yes? Or can Alabama call anyone and get a yes? Yeah? I mean, I think Alabama could even call Steve Sarkisian at Texas and get a yes. Somebody said Dan Lanning from Oregon. If he called him, he'd get a yes. I just think with what Alabama has in place, I don't know that there's a coach. I mean, what coach isn't going to take the Alabama job? I mean, you could say Jim Harbaugh might not take it. I don't know. You can say that. But I don't know that he wouldn't. He might not, but he's going to the NFL anyway. But who else is telling Alabama no? Tim Tomlinson, Urban Meyer. I don't think Alabama's calling Urban Meyer. And Urban Meyer doesn't coach, so if he tells them no, okay. So, my coach, who's my coach? I mean, you're telling me that Chris Kleiman at K-State wouldn't take the Alabama job if they called? You're insane. Jeff Brom at Louisville wouldn't take the Alabama job? Come on, man. Ooh, Mike Tomlin. I don't think Mike Tomlin is a college football coach, but if he was, you don't think that Alabama would call him? Of course they would. And you don't think Mike Tomlin could get kids to come play for him? Shoot. Y'all better hope that Alabama doesn't call Mike Tomlin and Mike Tomlin hadn't had enough of the NFL. Because if that happened, look out. Look out. It's insane. That would absolutely be insane. Mm, mm, mm. Urban Meyer is one of the only coaches that can deliver on the pressure of winning at Alabama. Now that I can agree with. I agree with that. You're right, Julius, as far as that. I just don't think Alabama's going to call him. And not Pete Carroll. Stop saying that. Yeah, we mentioned Dabo Swinney. I said Dabo Swinney. And I think Dabo Swinney would absolutely answer the call if Alabama called him and said, we need you to come coach our team. I think Dabo Swinney leaves. He sees the writing on the wall at Clemson. He sees it. Now, Dabo's going to have to adapt and get into the transfer portal. But, yeah. Yeah. I do. I do. Now, we do have somebody that says over on YouTube, in this state of college football, what's the allure of coaching in Alabama? No recruiting advantage, and it's Tuscaloosa. Well, it's still Alabama. So you still have access to all the money that you want. Kids will still want to go to Alabama. I mean, now, were they going there because it was Nick Saban, or were they going there because it's Alabama? I think that depends on who you hire. If you hire Dabo Swinney's got a pretty good track record of not only, one, putting guys in the pros, two, winning national championships. Now, if you hire somebody that hasn't won at that kind of level and hasn't had that kind of success, then, yeah, it becomes a problem. So, but, yeah, we'll see what happens. Oh, hold on. I just got a report. Ooh, Dan Lanning. They're talking about eyeing Dan Lanning from Oregon. Now then it becomes tricky. Is Dan Lanning that guy? That's who they're talking about is going to replace Nick Saban. That's who they're going to go after, is Dan Lanning. First of all, does Dan Lanning tell Alabama no? Do you want to be the guy that replaces the greatest football coach or college football coach ever? Do you want to be that guy? I don't know that I do. I can't see an NFL coach leaving to go to college and dealing with NIL recruiting. Yeah, I don't see that either. Unless they've already been in college and dealt with it, I don't see an NFL coach going to deal with that. So, And maybe they did go because of Saban. Maybe they did. I don't know. We'll see. But the thing about it is, my man Darren Howard said they went because of Saban and because they could have pocket stuff. Yeah. But now they can do that where near a beach. Well, what school is near a beach that plays good football? I mean, I get that point. Florida State's near a beach. But what other school is just like right near a beach other than Miami? Well, nobody's going to Miami. They stink. Their head coach is one of the worst in Power 5 football. I mean, Alabama, Tuscaloosa is only 2 hours from the beach. People don't know that, and that's the whole thing. It's not like Tuscaloosa is not like hours and hours away from a beach. They're 2 hours from Tuscaloosa is 2 hours from a really, really nice beaches. So Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, extremely nice. So they're not that far away. Somebody said, David said, Coach Prime. Yeah, Clemson, an hour and a half. There's places right now that are hour and a half. Alabama's not that far. The Hurricanes aren't that bad, Keegan. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Miami is terrible. They're terrible. And their coach is just as bad. Their coach is just as bad. Mario Cristobal is one of the great recruiters. He is one of the off. I mean, how many times do you have to lose a game because you won't take a knee? How many times are you going to do that? You have the game won. The other team has no timeouts. You refuse to take a knee. Your team fumbles and loses the game. If you did that once, that's one too many times, and you're an idiot. He has done it twice. Huh. That's not good coaching. That's not good coaching. So Jeff Brom is not going to Alabama. Stop. But I'm interested. This is good stuff, man. I am really interested. Does Dan Lanning, does he want all that pressure? Following the greatest coach of all time? Leaving what you have in Oregon? Do you leave that? I don't know. I mean, you'll get access to better players, but Oregon gets really good players too. I don't know if I leave. So, yeah, I just don't know. The person that I think, and maybe they don't want him, would be Dabo Swinney. But, maybe they don't want Dabo. Maybe they don't believe in Dabo's methods. And maybe they believe in Dan Lanning because Oregon has embraced everything that you need to embrace to be successful in college football. They've embraced NIL. They got a ton of money in it. They've embraced the transfer portal. They get guys transferring in every year. And I think to be relevant, you have to do that. And we know Dabo has not done that. So maybe they don't want Dabo because he won't embrace the way college football is done today. So Kiffin, we know Kiffin would leave Ole Miss at the drop of a dime to go to Alabama. And you know that he's absolutely embraced, NIL, and he's absolutely embraced the transfer portal. But Kiffin's got a team that can possibly win the national championship next year at Ole Miss. He built that. You leaving that to go to Alabama to follow Nick Saban? I don't think you do. Even though I know he wants that job and would take it. My man Quiggle said that Saban retired to do more Aflac commercials. Somebody said Coach Prime was going to go to Alabama. Yeah, man, it's going to be wild to see what happens. It really will. Yeah, we talked about this earlier, Austin. Wouldn't just about any coach leave their job for Alabama? Kirby, Harbaugh, Kiffin, etc. I don't think Kirby Smart would because he doesn't need to. That would be one of the only coaches that I would say doesn't need to go because Georgia's got just as much money, if not more, than Alabama. I think they got more. And they recruit just as well. Their recruiting base just in Georgia is better than the one in Alabama. He wouldn't leave. Harbaugh definitely is not going to Alabama from Michigan. That doesn't make sense. Now, Kiffin would. Kiffin would absolutely go. Yeah, Kiffin would go. No, Kendall, you're exactly right, brother. He's not for Alabama. He isn't for Alabama, and Alabama isn't for him. That would be a horrible match. Doesn't have the personality. Yeah, he's not leaving for Alabama. Jim Harbaugh is not leaving for Alabama. That would be insane. That would be insane. So, Urban Meyer. People keep saying Urban Meyer. I don't know if Alabama wants to dip that toe into the Urban Meyer pool. I don't know if they want to do that. I think Urban Meyer would jump at the chance. I absolutely think that he would jump at the chance. So, would Vrabel go to Alabama? He's not a college football coach. No. He wouldn't be able to recruit at a level high enough. He'd be fired in 2 years. My man, Kendall Jaycox, again, can't see an NFL coach leaving to go to Bama to deal with NIL and recruiting. 100%, Kendall. Ain't no way. They're not doing that. They're not doing that. Now, I would say maybe a lower tier coach might do it. And when I say lower tier, still Power 5, but so if they had the cachet to go and do that, but why would an NFL team hire that guy to begin with? You know, they're not hiring. The NFL isn't hiring guys to be their head coach that come from, I don't know, Michigan State or Kansas State. And I love Kansas State or Louisville. They're not hiring guys from there, or even Tennessee, like Josh Heupel. The NFL isn't beating down his door. Yeah, Vrabel would go to Ohio State before he went anywhere. But I think Vrabel is a NFL coach. Austin, okay, I've heard about all who's not going to Bama. So who are some names that we're thinking that could go? Well, they threw out, ESPN already threw out Dan Lanning, said Alabama was going to be their top target. They already threw out that said that Lanning was going to be Alabama's top target. So I don't know. Yeah, Kendall. There it is. Most college coaches don't want to deal with grown men, just like Saban, just like Urban Meyer. They don't want to deal with that because while you can coach hard and you can do that at the professional level, you got to earn some respect. And coming from college, you haven't earned that respect. You haven't earned the respect of grown men that have been in the National Football League for 5 years, a decade. They need you to earn their respect. They're not going to just give it to you because you're the head coach. And think about this. Do you just give the guy at your job or the gal at your job your respect because they're your boss? No. Now, you do the things that are required for you for the job, but you just don't run around and just give them all this respect because they're your boss. You don't do that. And they don't either. It's still a job. And more people got to look at it like a job. Jimbo, Jim O'Brien, Kiffin. Jim O'Brien and Jimbo are not taking the Alabama head coaching job. They are not getting called. So we got to stop that. Greg Schiano would be a horrible choice. Greg Schiano tried to do the same thing that he did in Rutgers at Tampa and failed miserably. But they're not calling him to go to Alabama either. Now, they mentioned Dan Lanning, so we'll see. We will see. So we'll figure it out. I just think it's incredible news that Nick Saban has called it quits. They didn't take a slump. They didn't take a dive. They played good football to the last game. Hell, to the last play. They weren't a 7-8 win team where he was struggling. I do think either he's just tired of it or he got tired of dealing with the changes of college football at 72 years old. He just didn't have the stomach for it anymore. I don't blame him. It's a lot. But you know what? You're getting paid $8-9 million a year. It should be a lot. It should be a lot.